We are live. Chuck Carstensen, Michelle Carstensen team, Remax Results with our quarterly podcast, What's Happening in Minnesota Real Estate, episode 29. We've been doing this for over 3 years now. We did a lot more frequency early on, and now it's been basically quarterly. The last time we did this was February 7th, and now it's May 9th.
Wow, that's like 3 months.
That is. That's all quarterly.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right. So typically when we do this, we update you on what's happened in the market. And that's why we do it about every 3 months. Not that, in a way, the real estate market seems like week to week now with the feeling, the vibe you get. But for the most part, it doesn't change that dramatically. But there have been changes over the last 2 months. So that's one of the reasons we do this show, to keep people up to date on that. I thought about doing a segment that I would call simple real estate things a lot of people don't know. Like, people don't obviously know everything about real estate, but then there's some simple things that people still don't know that we could educate people on, Michelle. So I think we'll do that. And if you're tuning in and like, I don't know how long the show goes, I see you're on, I want to listen to it. It does get put, stays on YouTube, stays on our Facebook Carstensen team page. It's on the Real Life Impact podcast page. You can search that up, and every once in a while, I do a couple short podcasts here and there with a shorter theme topic. So, Michelle, what's been going on lately?
Yeah, I mean, is it changing every week or every day? I'm not actually sure. Yeah, real estate market. Interesting. I have all my listings are sold except for my 2 land listings. Ready to close. I think there's like some interesting dynamics going on, where we see if you price in the pricing of the real estate market. So I'm talking about when we help sellers and we help buyers. If you price it as an area that will get bid up probably 10 to 20,000, it sells right away. If it's priced either on either side, if it's priced at the top of where it should be, it takes a bit to sell.
Mm-hmm. Which I would say, if you look back a year ago, you could probably price it at the top of where it should be and it'd still get 2 or 3 offers. And if you priced it a little bit aggressively, it'd get, depending on where it was, lots of offers. And some of the properties are getting pretty active, but those are, like Michelle's saying, you price it probably slightly aggressively and they're pretty active. But if you're now at the price point, it's probably, not getting an offer right away. And you might even have to drop it. So that's the subtle change between this year and last year. So it's active because we've talked about this before in our mini podcasts or even other ones. Low inventory, not that many people, not as many people selling, but still people want to buy. Rents are high. You need a place to live, want to live where you want to live instead of in somebody's basement or wherever people live that they don't want to live.
Maybe they want to live in the basement. Michaela does.
That's true. There are people we know that like living in. All good.
Kurt does.
Yeah. Well, I shouldn't have said it that way. Now they probably take offense to it, like I'm pointing them out. I was not. So a reminder, you can always comment. So when we did this one, we didn't say it was coming live until I put it on my Facebook page not too long ago. Somebody does happen to join us during the live unannounced broadcast that we just threw out here. You can always comment in the feed with your real estate questions, which people have done in the past, and we'll answer. Could be any question on real estate. So how about that segment I mentioned we could do? Simple real estate things a lot of people don't know, Michelle. And what made me think about this, I'll share. Just a little bit ago before we got on this, somebody called me about some land and I explained it, and they seem like they're busy. You ever get a call when you're busy? Like you took the call, but then almost like you didn't want to talk. I was like, I'm looking for a deal. Are there? And I'm like, well, there's not really too many deals on the MLS. And they're like, well, and this was up in Hinckley and it was 80 acres. And I sold property right nearby it. So I knew it's mostly low land. So it probably is a little bit overpriced. It's been out there for 5 months. I'm like, yeah, it probably is, but the sellers don't need to sell. Probably won't come down. It's not my listing, just explaining people the market. And it's like, well, I might be looking for a hunting range or gun range. And again, maybe that would work out there. But that's not what I'm getting at, but I'm getting into a little bit of the conversation. We get calls all the time. So here's my point. Now, somebody asking questions and wanting deals, just me as a realtor would think they know certain things about real estate if they're looking for land. But here's a simple thing that a lot of people don't know. And here's what he didn't know. What's the address? If there's not a physical structure on land, it's just a parcel ID cell. There's not an address because nobody's got a house on it. There's not, 123 Main Street, like your house or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So then I got a text a little bit ago of, hey, what's the address? And then I give them like the nearest GPSable site. So one example is a simple thing most people don't know, especially people that have all kind of great ideas for buying land and think it should be way less. Is it doesn't have a structure, you don't have an address. It's just 000 XYZ, Cross Lake Road, for example.
Mm-hmm. And if it does have an address, it probably had like a trailer home or something on it at one point.
Trailer home, some kind of more 3-season livable cabin, old house that was tore down. So it's possible that it currently, you're right, Michelle, doesn't have a structure, but had one at one point that somebody called home. So that is possible. But here's the deal. I do get that. It's not the only person that's ever like, what's the address? That like comes up, once a week almost with land.
Well, they're usually like, how come it doesn't have an address?
Correct. How come it doesn't have an address?
Land.
So vacant land. So that's why it doesn't have an address. So that's a simple thing that somebody looking for land might want to know. And now you know it. You got anything else like that, Michelle?
I mean, I had a guy call me yesterday on land and said, there's no way anyone on earth, except for people out of the cities, buy land with wetland or low land on it. I said, all right, sounds good. For all of you that don't know, many people buy land with wetland on it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the land listings do have wetland. Like this land I'm referencing, I got a closing. I got 2 closings this week on land, and both of them are 90% wetland.
Yeah, so it definitely happens.
Price, so 90%, if not 95% of it are wetland. Priced appropriate to the wetland, but not a deal. And a lot of people, well, the one we priced it very appropriately would have got more people, but the people got lucky and the sellers took the offer. But on the other one, I think it was, pushing the price. But here's why sellers hang on to their price for a long time. Because the land prices, even more so than homes, I'd say, haven't really dropped at all and probably won't even do a little drop, even if the homes drop, say, second half of the year. The land values will probably be the same or a little bit more because people that have money and can finance it, and it's a little bit harder to finance, are buying the land, and there's just not that many land listings, but people want to go hunt or go camp or go get away or buy some land.
Yeah, I think the majority of people that understand anything about land understands that it's a real estate investment, but also like you can't make more land. You can't just go plant land. You can build houses on different land, but you can't buy more land. And you especially cannot buy more vacant lots on lakes. That does not exist. Have to buy the ones available.
Correct. Yeah. And the other thing on, parcel of land, even if it's wetland, a lot of times they're leased nearby something like, hey, the hunting reserves across the street or down the road or the lakes down the road. So it's like, I can't buy on a lake, but I can, put my little bunkhouse on the land in some of these areas and go up there and hang out. And I'm already going somewhere anyway, or I want to go somewhere. So I'm going to spend my couple $100 a month payment on this land to do that compared to the next thing. Because, hey, if you went to stay at a hotel, a lot of times a couple $100 a night. So if you buy your land and it's $230 a month for a smaller piece of property that you put some money down on and you get to go hang out whenever you want a few months of the year, that sounds like a good deal for people.
Yeah. And since we're actually talking about land, a lot of people don't know, they can buy any property contract for deed, but I mean, a decent percentage of the time you can buy land for contract for deed. I had a buyer buy land last year. I think it was like $30,000 or something contract for deed, and he paid it off this year already. So maybe you can't get financing at a bank. And usually if you do, it has to be a very local bank or specific that'll do it for 20% down, maybe less if you're building. But sometimes the sellers will contract for deed it, give you a balloon of like 4 to 5 years, and maybe you don't have the best credit, but you have money in the bank and you're going to know you're going to pay it off, then the contract to deed to buy land. So if you're saying like, okay, what do some people not know? That's one way to purchase land. Also, if you're like, I want to go buy land in Bemidji, do I just contact Zillow? Do I call the guy on the sign? Well, half the time there is no sign because they just don't even put them out there. We can help you anywhere in Minnesota. We can help you.
And Wisconsin.
And Florida. Oh, actually, the 2 properties I sold in Florida already this year are land. So there, and Florida. And no, we do not have to see the land. You can if you want to, but we don't have to see it to help you.
And we do a lot of land sales. Today, I actually went and looked at somebody, a past customer, called me about some land they want to sell, and I stopped out and looked at it. And then on the way up there, it was north of Moore, I called somebody else who had some property that they called me about, and I'm like, hey, I'm up this way, are you around? Like, go over, my wife's there and she'll show you around. So then I looked at two acreage parcels out that way. So it's interesting, and I might have mentioned this before. It's interesting, like Michelle knows this, I'm not like hunter guy, like I'm not go camp on the land guy, but I get a lot of land sales.
Oh yeah, a lot of land sales. People just are attracted to having Chuck sell them land for some reason. It's funny, but you're really good because Chuck has like the app, and he'll be like, okay, here's the line, boom, 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 we're done.
Well,
more familiar with it than most agents. I would say Chuck is way more experienced than most agents in land.
Yeah, and I think probably a little more flexible to work with, and there's different definitions for flexibility, but just, we don't make it like so difficult or whatever. Mm-hmm. So if you want somebody to go help you shoot a buck on your land, not me. Not sure. Want somebody to quickly get back to you on what makes sense with the land and what other things are sold for, so you can make a quick decision when some of the stuff's selling quick. Yes, and since we sell so much land in a wide area, it obviously probably more. There's there's very few realtors that sell land in as wide area as I have. So I just have more knowledge through the years of doing it. There's some coaches. I help coach basketball, and I did play basketball, who've never played the sport but can be good coaches. Same with selling hunting land. Never as a sportsman, but I can do it.
Yeah, because you're well versed and experienced in real estate. I mean, that's what I'd want. I don't worry about if a buck's going to run by or not. I don't think that's. I think that's not your duty to make sure bucks are running by. Or bear.
So one time, I'm going to share this too. One time when I was showing land to people, met them at the property, walked around from a distance, I did see a bear. That's the closest I've been to a live bear.
Well,
there's a bear over there. I think I'm going this way.
Oh my gosh. I would do more than go this way. But good thing you were out there, not me. Oh my gosh. That's funny. Hey, at least you could spot a bear. I guess I would think it was a bear. I don't know. I think
it was not too far. It was close enough where you could spot the bear.
Oh boy.
I don't think the bear wanted anything to do with us either. It also went the other way. But for that second, I was like, oh my goodness, there is a bear.
Well, and I think, okay, so when people are looking at land, one other thing, since we're still talking about land, is like a lot of them have easements on. Sometimes the easements are 2 feet wide. Sometimes they're 4 feet wide. Sometimes 16 feet wide. 16 feet wide is good, or wider than that because you want to be able to drive on the easement. Some are shared easements with the neighbors. There's so many different ways there's an easement to get to the land. And sometimes like, oh, the land is cheap. I can just drive my 4-wheeler right on the easement. Maybe.
Yeah, and I'm running into that a lot too, where some people think they have an easement but never got recorded properly or whatever, and then you don't really have an easement, so then you got to do something to sell it, and then some people say, well, they won't let us do an easement now. So there's a lot of things to know when buying land. That is one of the reasons to obviously work with somebody who knows what they're doing when helping you buy or sell land, but also not to just call, the listing agent maybe, but or at least know what questions to ask. I'm not somebody who would not tell somebody like, here's a deficiency on the land. Like they need to know it's a disclosure issue that I think needs to be shared, but I don't know that everybody does that or thinks of it. So another thing, Michelle, what we normally cover in the show, because we're not going to do a super duper long show, we're at about 15 minutes, probably don't want to go over 30 minutes, is people ask us about the market all the time. When's it going to crash? When's it going to this? Will the market turn? If so, when? And turn, probably just a little downside in prices was what I'm meaning by turn. There's some people like, I talk to all kinds of people. So if I say this and don't say it in the most kindest way, I was talking to somebody today who literally thinks like next week the money system's going to go away and there'll be a different kind of money system and maybe someday it's a possibility, right? But
okay, yeah. When will the market turn? Well, I know by next spring it'll turn back to a crazy seller's market again. So what is it going to do in between now and next March? Is that what you're asking?
I would say yes. What time in 2023? You pinpoint the exact date or month, Michelle. Okay, it's no. I'd say right now, to kind of backpedal a little bit, it's a seller's market. You listed at a good price, like a price it should be, not like some crazy price. And every once in a while, we'll take a crazy price listing. You can go through our listings and play listing roulette. Which one's the crazy price listing that did not give the seller price on? You can figure that out. And you could probably figure it out. But when somebody actually like agrees with our pricing and we list it and tell them what's going to happen, it's a seller's market. Sellers are kind of still getting what they want. Now, also backpedal a little bit more. Into last year was more of a normal market. Like, oh gosh, it's taking 90 days to sell your home and you got to come down 12 grand or whatever. That's a normal market.
Happened to me.
It's negotiable. Like not every house is getting bid up, and there's some homes that don't get bid up now. So don't get me wrong, but it's more of a seller's market. So when's it going to turn, let's say, to the more normal market where, oops, that price isn't working. Oh, showings are coming in. Shoot, got to drop the price. When's it going to turn back, Michelle, to a normal market, which it was just a normal market not too long ago for a few months?
Mid-June.
Mid-June.
Because it's going to be summer. So if they've wanted to move, they're already going to move. Their leases are all up end of May, end of June, or they're up in the fall a little bit. But I'm not going to say like it's going to like turn down. I'm just going to say like it's not going to be as crazy as it is right now in 30 days. I don't think it is. But
so part of 2022, like around mid-June, our June listings, middle of June, went from everything we listed at an agreeable price that the seller was very wise, listening to the realtor, multiple offer bid up, and everybody did well. That was almost everybody, let's say pretty much everybody. And around mid-June, it went to like, oh, nobody even made an offer. Or, wow, we got one offer. It was a good offer. Good enough. Let's move on to like all of a sudden, by August, we were still doing a lot of business. By August, like, you think you're going to get that price? It's not going to work. Oh, I'm going to get it. They got it 3 months ago. No, you're not going to get it. Okay,
no chance.
Finally closed in January. So that's what we mean by normal market. So
yeah, no, I see. I think it'll be the same based on that the interest rates are still fairly high compared to the last couple of years. As we talk about all the time, otherwise not really high. And it's just summer. People get busy doing their stuff. Like if they haven't moved, they're probably not going to move as much. And they're going to see what, they're going to wait till fall to buy too. So the seller's market will slow down a little bit, because if you saw last fall, November, December area, when it came a normal market, the prices came down. Like you said, even my house, I had to bring it down. And now if I would have waited 2 more months to sell my house, I would have got a better price, blah, blah, blah. How do we know? And some people will wait till fall to see if it slides down a little bit if they don't have to buy now. If their lease is up, they're buying anyway. But
So
I go
here's
wait till
my
fall.
feedback on that. I think that there's a little bit threat of slightly higher interest rates. That'll obviously
Mhm.
drop the prices a tiny bit. We're not looking at 10% crash in the market or anything. However, I already think buyers are very hesitant right now to pay more. Like the prices probably, other than a few pocket areas where there's obviously literally nothing to purchase for what the amount of demand is. I think right now people are like, yeah, I'm not going to do more than that. That's it. I'm drawing the line. I think they're already
Mhm.
drawing the line.
Mhm.
And because of, like Michelle said, if they don't have to buy, so you're going to get looks on your house, not as many as a year ago. But if they don't have to buy, they're like, well, I'm going to wait till I think it's going to go down a little bit. So what's that mean? You have the spring, maybe 5% spike. So that spike goes away. And there's always a chance of then the decline, which we haven't seen year over year decline in appreciation. But I know kind of a while ago, I crafted an email that I set people up on and sent it out and gave my predictions. And I gave predictions last year that you're going to see a decline segment, not like where there's not even positive appreciation, but very slight, like just slight negative, slight depreciation. And that's going to happen. And here's the deal, though. It's not that big of a deal because it's like, well, that's 5%, which is 15,000 on 300,000. It is a big deal if you're buying and then moving 7 months from now. That makes it
Mhm.
hard. But if you're buying and not going to move, it doesn't really matter. So that's why
Mhm.
people don't necessarily wait to save a couple bucks, but
Mhm.
also it's not like a big threat of huge drop off. But yeah, I think you're right. For sure, by mid June, we're going to see another slight level of slowdown. There'll still be a lot of deals because there'll be enough buyers out there, probably more inventory, and people will be like, "Oh, I can actually ask for closing costs," and they'll sell, and you didn't get what you would have got, April 20th.
Mhm. Yeah. And then, like I said earlier, mark my words, next spring, whatever it did, it's going up from there
Yep.
because it's a transient like cycle of people in leases. Their leases are usually up in the spring. Nobody wants to move in the winter, out of apartments anyway. And then they get all excited to plant flowers and ooh, and here we are. I have not been in real estate long enough to not see that. Every year since I started with you 9 years ago, every spring has gone up. Every single one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you're right.
So,
Next spring will not be a decline. That's why we're not going to see any big decline. For us to have an actual huge, or let's say a 10% decline in real estate, you'd need a spring that actually declines as well, and that doesn't happen. It normally boosts it back up.
mhm. Yeah. So maybe if you're in a lease and you're like, I missed out. Now I had to you should like do like a 18-month one.
So remember, there were so many transactions, say for about a couple of years,
Mhm.
2020, 2020 through mid 2022, and a lot of
Mhm.
transactions in the last year, but not as much as slowed down. And then there's all the refinances over those 2 years that
Mhm.
people are in very, very low interest rates. It's hard for them to give up the interest rates. So it creates that low supply of homes, where it's a long term thing. If you're actually refinancing on a home you're okay with, you shouldn't move in 2 years. Shouldn't it? Doesn't even make sense to refinance if you're moving in 5 years. You should stay there for 7 to 12 years. So it's a long spread out of boom of sales because so many people moving to never mind, I'll stay put. So that low supply helps keep the prices up and a slight appreciation. Plus, I had this on one of my short podcasts. Inflation, like if everything's inflating, houses aren't going to go down. They just may not go up as obviously. They might just stay flat because they're not going to go down if everything else is going up so high.
Correct. I know. It's like it's so funny because when I started working with you, it was right after like the downturn of the market, right? And I think back of like even when I talk to people now or people in the past, it's like, when is the market gonna crash? Like, crash what? Okay, what are you talking about? Because houses that even crash at that time, let's just say they were worth 200, right? A lot of those houses are now worth 350. They're not going back down to 200. And it's like, how do you explain that to people? Like, that's not happening. Like, your milk isn't gonna, like, gas isn't gonna be 99 cents like it was in like the late 90s, right? It's not. Like, milk's not going to be cheaper. Snickers candy bars are not going to go back to 25 cents. They're not. So to like explain to people, like, when is it going to crash? Like, what do you mean by crash? Like, that it's going to slightly go down and you're going to get it 10 to 15,000 than you would right now? Okay. Is it going to crash 100,000? Not happening. Sorry. It's just people keep making more money. Prices keep rising. The value of money is more. You're not buying a house for $100,000 unless you live in a small town.
Oh, just keep printing more money, so there's more money available. But that would be the reason some people think that they're going to go to a different system at some point. That's when I do, not that they're going to a different system, but that's why I've said many, many times, like almost every time I do one, like in the, I don't know, early to mid 2030s, they'll probably something weird like that'll happen and things will reset in some way that'll be very strange and not great for values, but also probably they'll do it in a way that's probably doesn't matter, probably doesn't matter much. Who knows? That's also, now since each time I say this, I've been doing this for like 3 years, like time does tick away. That's also long enough where you can easily pay off a home by that time because we're talking 10, 12, 15 years. So I would keep that in mind. That's my predictions. So I also have people calling me like, hey, I had one person I talked to today about, well, should I wait to list it past July, or in June? I'm like, no, we got to get it on in June, just because I think they will do a little bit better in June. I got to tell people what I think.
Yeah.
And there's some people that do call. I'm like, hey, it's going to crash, and they're a seller. Like, what do I do? I'm like, well, I don't think it's going to crash a lot, but I think if you list it soon, you'll get more than if you list it, in September. So that's just stuff to be aware of. We try to advise people on what we believe is going to happen. Now you could talk to 10 people, and what do you think? 5 people will tell them what we're saying. 3 people will be like probably similar, but a little bit lower on it, a little bit higher. And there's probably 2 people like, that's for sure crashing.
Yeah, I mean, depends who you talk to. It's not different if you're going to a listing appointment where like, this is what it's worth. Say they've been in the house for 20 years. This is what it's worth. No way. It's worth way more than that. Okay, talk to somebody else. See you come on the market. They don't want to list it to us because we told them the truth right away. The next guy tells them the truth. And I'm fine, we'll list with you. But I don't want to list with that person because they said it first. All right.
Yeah, and we get those too, where we're the second people that do it.
That's true. It goes both ways. But I'm saying, like, we're pretty experienced in what we do. Just like whatever you all do in your jobs to make money, you're probably pretty experienced in what you do. Let's just start it yesterday. Probably want to take our advice. Are we always 100% right? Nope. Majority of the time, yes, because we're experts in the real estate market. So even when COVID hit, there was realtors telling you that the market's going to crash.
There was like almost every realtor telling.
Yes, and Chuck was like, nope, it's not. And Chuck was right.
I was like the only one doing videos that's not crashing.
Yeah, I remember. And they're like, crashing. People commented on here. I swear realtors were commenting in our chat like, it's crashing. Like, Chuck's like, nope, here's why it's not. And you were right. So is he always right? No, but pretty close.
Close, yeah. And same with Michelle. She knows what she's doing. So, all right, we are at how many minutes in our broadcast? About 29 minutes. That's pretty good. One of our shorter episodes, so we stop it at around 30 minutes. So we covered that new segment, simple real estate things people don't know. And we talked a lot about land, and we have been doing a lot of land sales overall as a team. So we do that. People should know that. And yeah, some of them are way far away, and people haven't seen them, or we haven't seen them, and you can get a lot of information online and calling the counties and townships and all that. As far as the market, again, it's not going to change enough to super duper matter. It's just understanding probably as a seller, it's not up and up up and away. And I think most sellers kind of know that. Also, if you don't really want to sell, but scared you're going to get crushed in equity because of somebody says it's going to crash, you probably can wait to sell. You don't have to sell this year. Any other kind of piggyback advice off of those things, Michelle, that we talked about?
Yeah, I mean, you got to go where you want to go. Is it a bad time to sell because I have a 2.5% interest rate? I don't know. Where are you moving? Do you want to move? Then move. That's my advice.
Yeah. Sounds good. Okay, so this is episode 29, the What's
29.
Happening in Minnesota real estate show. Someday we can get fancier with the graphics. I just have these little banners I run across. But so again, outside the show, you're always welcome to reach out to us, as a lot of people do. Pick our brains. We'd love to work with you, help you buy, sell, invest, land sales. Florida, Michelle's still doing business there. And I've had a lot of sales in Wisconsin so far this year. And obviously lots and lots of people we're helping in Minnesota in a wide area. Lots of zip codes. We still do lots of zip codes.
Lots of zip codes.
All right. So with that, Michelle and Chuck signing off. Have a wonderful day. We'll do this show again, probably in another quarter. And every once in a while, I'll pop in with another little podcast with an update. So Michelle's still waiting.